It's good to be back, baby. It's racing season. Hey there, race fans. It's Race Day Top 5 with me, Frank 5. Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome to 2024. And that means a brand new season of NASCAR racing. I am pumped. I cannot wait to get the season started. We're kicking it off this weekend with the Busch Light Clash at the LA Coliseum. I'm so excited for that race. And just a couple of weeks from this upcoming Sunday, we've got the Daytona 500, February 18th, kicking off a brand new season. 40 drivers will be chasing the Harley J. Earl Trophy to kick off the new season, and then we will proceed throughout the rest of the regular season before we get ready for playoffs and we get ready for a brand new champion. But we've got a lot to talk about this upcoming season. I'm just as excited. I hope you all are too. So here are my top 5 storylines entering this upcoming season and what to expect for 2024. Number 1, Ryan Blaney defending his Cup Series championship. What a year Ryan Blaney had last year, folks. Started out relatively slow, doing well, but not great. Then it all changed when he won the Coca-Cola 600, which I got to witness in attendance, and he was just so dominant that entire race, particularly when the sun went down. His car was just unbeatable, despite a couple of challenges from a few drivers. Ryan Blaney had pretty much the entire field covered at that time. And then he went on a summer break where it really wasn't the best for him, but he was still doing his, best on the racetrack. Then come playoff time, the 12 team showed up when it mattered most. They stepped up to the plate and they knocked it out of the park. Like when, the ball's being thrown at you and with the bat, you hit it out of the park like a home run. They hit a home run in these playoffs, starting really at Martinsville, where they were battling all race long with drivers like Denny Hamlin and other drivers just to get into the championship for Phoenix. And I got to witness that in attendance. I witnessed the beginning of Ryan Blaney's championship run in that race, where he won the race, won a grandfather clock, and the following week, he ended up really being the best car out of all the championship 4 drivers at Phoenix, finishing runner-up to race winner Ross Chastain, but it was just enough for him to win his first Cup Series title. And it was a big year for Blaney, who really, the last couple of years, has silenced the critics about whether or not can he win multiple races, can he be a championship contender. He silenced all those critics last year, and it was so impressive to watch. I mean, I'm a big fan of Ryan Blaney. He's a great race car driver, great talent, and has a good personality in general. Yeah, I mean, the low demeanor, when he talks low, you probably think he's just kind of like a chill person, which he is. But when he wins races, he gets very excited. He interacts with the fans, handing them the checkered flags. It's a wholesome moment to see a driver interact with fans, particularly the younger generation that may want to be drivers like Ryan Blaney down the road. What to expect for him this upcoming 2024 season? I expect him to be in the championship battle. I definitely think now you have a championship under your belt, the pressure's on to win another championship. But I truly believe Ryan Blaney can live up to those standards this year as our Cup champion and try to go for another one. I mean, for one thing, it would be awesome to see him win the Daytona 500, something that he's been chasing for the last couple years since he became a Cup driver. He's always been in the mix at Daytona. Finished runner-up to Kurt Busch in 2017, led the most laps in 2018 until he got kicked back a little bit, rebounded to get a top 5, but it was too little too late at the time. 2020, finishing runner-up to Denny Hamlin and just mere inches, but coming up short. Ultimately, it was overshadowed by Ryan Newman's flip. And then 2022 had a really good race car, perhaps one of the best race cars aside from his teammate, the eventual winner Austin Cindric, who they duped with coming to the checkered flag of that race. Blaney got kicked back a little bit while Cindric ended up winning the race. Last year, Blaney took a damaged car that he wrecked halfway through the race into a top 10. He's always been good at Daytona and always finds a way to be up there when it matters the most. Is this the year he does it? We shall see. I definitely think he will be strong, not just for the 500, but throughout the entire season, starting with this upcoming Sunday night at the Busch Light Clash at the Coliseum. So I expect big things for Ryan Blaney and that 12 team this year. Number 2, new faces in new places. We've got a lot of changes this offseason, from drivers going to new teams, new up-and-coming drivers from different series. We've got a lot to unfold. And I think it's best that we start off with one of the big teams in Cup Series, and that would be Stewart-Haas Racing. We have a new lineup this year. Chase Briscoe is back, and so is Ryan Preece. But we have 2 new drivers added to the Stewart-Haas Racing team this year, and they are Josh Berry in the number 4 car and Noah Gragson in the number 10 car. Talking about Josh Berry first, he started his career obviously driving the short tracks, the modifieds, those late model cars. Having great success at those tracks that he goes at, particularly Martinsville. He's always been good there. Then he got a big opportunity in 2021 when he got to drive a couple races for Junior Motorsports and won a couple of races that year at Martinsville in the spring and later in the fall at Vegas when he was substituting for an injured Michael Annett. That promoted him to a full-time Xfinity Series ride in 2022, and he made the most of it, winning a couple of races. I think he made the championship 4. I'm not 100% sure. I think he did. Yeah, he did. And he wasn't the best car out of those championship 4 drivers, but he was in the mix. Last year was kind of a step back for Josh Berry. I mean, he was competitive, but they were never able to get to victory lane, which kind of shocked me because I felt like he would be one of the guys to watch out for to make the championship 4. They made the playoffs, but they just didn't get to where they needed to go to. But while he was doing that, he was also getting a big opportunity in the Cup Series doing a little bit of relief driving. It started out at Las Vegas early in the year last year when Chase Elliott injured his leg in a snowboarding incident. Josh Berry was called up to drive in the number 9 car for the next couple races until Elliott came back. And Berry did a really good job in those races. He finished second at Richmond to Kyle Larson. And I'm like, this guy, if given the opportunity in the Cup Series, even though he is getting a little bit older, he's got a great opportunity to showcase his talent and what he can be on these racetracks, particularly at short tracks, because that's been a strong suit since he started driving in motorsports events. And then later in the year, a couple weeks after that, he got to drive a relief role for Hendrick Motorsports, the number 48 car, because Alex Bowman suffered an injury with his vertebrae in a sprint car accident. Berry got to drive a few races, and then Bowman came back, and Berry just kind of focused on Xfinity. But then another opportunity came around when he was called up to drive Legacy Motor Club's number 42 for a couple races due to his now teammate Noah Gragson having his off-the-track incidents. And then Berry reverted back to the Xfinity Series when it was all said and done, when another relief driver came in to fill the void for the rest of the season. But Josh Berry has got this big opportunity now, going into the number 4, replacing the now retired Kevin Harvick, who I will get to a little bit later. But this is a big moment for Josh Berry, an opportunity to show what he can do with competitive equipment. Yes, Storehouse Racing hasn't been exactly the same the last couple of years, but I think Josh Berry can bring something to the table for this race team with this number 4 car. And then we've got Noah Gragson, who, of course, last year was just a roller coaster season and a not so good way for him. I mean, he has been coming up to the NASCAR ranks since the Trucks Series and, of course, the K&N Series. And then you go on to the Trucks. He had a couple wins there. Then he jumped to Xfinity Series in 2019, got his breakout win at Daytona, the opener in 2020, and then won at Bristol a few months later after we resumed the season when the pandemic happened. And then 2021 had a big year where he won a lot more races and made the championship 4. And 2022 was his year. He was the best car in Xfinity that year, but just fell short in the championship to Ty Gibbs. That got him the opportunity to drive full-time in the Cup Series for Legacy Motor Club in the number 42 car last year. And things did not go his way at all. They didn't have fast race cars. He wasn't performing as well. He had a lot of incidents in wrecks, including one where he had to sit out a few races because he suffered a concussion in a wreck at Gateway. And then, of course, later in the year, if you all know, and I won't get too much into the details, he got suspended by NASCAR indefinitely due to something he liked on social media. He had to take sensitivity training, and then he asked for his release politely from Legacy Motor Club, saying, I wish to be released. I need to go and, correct myself and fix my issues. He's done that, and now he's getting an opportunity to drive for a little bit better race team in Storehouse Race, the number 10 car. Sponsorship is still, being decided because, what he did, can people really trust him? Can they sponsor him? It's like Kyle Larson all over again, but like Hendrick Carr stands by Larson, Valvoline, a couple of other associates. I'm sure Noah Gragson will gain back some respect from his peers and his fellow competitors on the track when he corrects himself this year with hopefully a more mature Noah Gragson and a positive attitude for him going forward in the number 10 car. Now, as I mentioned, Storehouse Racing, they didn't win a race last year, and a lot of people think this is going to be down year. People are expecting this team to have none of their drivers qualify for the playoffs. I, however, disagree. I believe we will see one of the drivers, if not maybe 2. The drivers I give the best chance to make the playoffs this year is Josh Berry, because I feel like, the experience he has in the Cup Series behind this next-gen car, it's a different manufacturer, but still, he could drive on these race cars. I think he could do very well. And then I look at Chase Briscoe. He had a down year last year where they weren't performing well. They didn't live up to their 2022 season. I think Chase Briscoe bounces back big time this season. Not saying that Noah Gragson and Ryan Preece won't do well. I think they will do better as a race team, but it's going to take some time for this organization. But I do believe one driver, if not 2 drivers, will qualify for the playoffs this year for Storehouse Racing. Then we go to Legacy Motor Club, which talked about Noah Gragson. We have a new face in the number 42 this year, being a teammate to Eric Jones and part-time driver Jimmy Johnson, who's a co-owner. And that is John Hunter Nemechek, driving the number 42 car with sponsorship from many associations, including Dollar Tree. This is not the first time we've seen a Nemechek behind the wheel of a 42 car, folks. If you remember, some of the older fans might know, Joe Nemechek, his dad, drove the number 42 car for what was Team Sabco that eventually became Chip Ganassi Racing, which is now Trackhouse Racing, back in the late 90s. And he had the Bell South sponsorship. He had not really a lot of good years there. He had one bright moment, which was his first career Cup Series victory coming at Loudon in 1999. This is awesome to see Nemechek back at the Cup Series because he had a full season in 2020, but it was marred mostly by the pandemic. No practice, no qualifying, limited Cup experience, didn't really go his way, and he was driving for Front Row Motorsports at the time, which wasn't the best option. They've gotten better as a race team, but back then they weren't really known as a team that you could expect to run up front on a consistent basis. One bright moment Nemechek had driving for them in 2020 was the first race back from during the pandemic. He finished 9th at Darlington. So I think this is a bigger opportunity for Nemechek this year, and plus this team's getting backing from Toyota Racing this year, and they're excited because they have kind of called out Chevrolet for not giving them the proper backing the last couple of years, even though in 2022, Erik Jones gave him a really good year and won at the Southern 500 at Darlington. So how will Nemechek fare this year? I think he's going to do very well. The last couple seasons, he took a chance, went back to the Truck Series to compete for race wins in a championship. He won a lot of races, came close to winning the championship in 2021, but just fell short. And then last year ran the full season Xfinity, won a lot of races, made the championship for it, but fell short to Cole Custer and Justin Allgaier, those guys. But I believe there will be big things for John Hunter Nemechek this year with Legacy Motor Club, and I'm excited to see what he can do with this team. I think these two drivers, him and Erik Jones, I think they could be borderline playoff contenders this year by making the playoffs. They could compete for race wins, not just at the super speedways, but other tracks as well. The Toyota backing they're getting, they're going to be a lot more competitive, I can guarantee you that. Then we've got Daniel Hemrick back in the Cup Series as he's joining Colleague Racing. Well, of course, he's been with them the last 2 years in Xfinity and run a couple of races part-time in the Cup Series in 2022 before they committed to 2 full-time drivers last year. He's the only full-time driver for them actually this year in the 31 car. The 16 car will be driven by multiple drivers like AJ Allmendinger, particularly on the road courses and the Daytona 500. We've announced Josh Williams actually to run the Clash and the Atlanta race, and a few other drivers along the way, but this is awesome to see Hemrick back in the Cup Series and try to prove himself as a really good race car driver. So we'll see what he can bring to the table for that race team. And then we've also got Justin Haley driving for Rick Ware Racing this year, who departed Colleague. He's driving for Rick Ware, who's got an alliance with Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing this year, and I think it's a step for Haley to potentially be the successor in the number 6 car when Brad Keselowski decides to hang up the helmet and the fire suit. Not yet. Keselowski still got it, I think, but this is a chance for Haley to showcase what he could do and maybe see where his future will take him going forward. But I'm interested to see how he does with Rick Ware Racing this year. And then we've got a couple new drivers driving for Spire Motorsports this year, which is now a 3-car operation. Of course, you've got the mainstay Corey LaJoie. He's the staple of the organization. Well, we've got 2 new faces there, and they are Zane Smith and Carson Hocevar. Talking about Zane Smith, this came out late in the fall during the playoffs last year when Zane Smith was announced as a Trackhouse Racing development driver. He probably will be driving for Trackhouse in the near future, but they're starting the season driving for Spire Motorsports, which will have an alliance with Trackhouse Racing. Smith will be driving a 3rd entry, the number 71 car. That number rings a bell, folks. If you've known the man who wore the Goodyear cap, wore those wingtip shoes as his racing shoes, and has the most starts in Daytona 500 history with 33. And I'm talking about Dave Marcus. The last time we saw the 71 car, a few times, but they weren't really notable like Dave Marcus's number. This is an opportunity for Zane Smith, and I think Spire, they've been trending in a good direction the last couple of years, and to have a young driver like Smith who had a great tenure in the Truck Series, winning the championship in 2022 for Front Row Motorsports, winning both openers at Daytona the last 2 years in the Truck Series. This kid's got it. He's got a lot of talent, a lot of potential, and I cannot wait to see what he does with Spire Motorsports this season in the 71 car. And then we got Carson Hocevar, who drove a couple of Cup races last season, starting with Darlington for Legacy Motor Club. He was pretty much the relief driver the rest of the season for the 42 team with obviously Noah Gregson's incident off the track, and he had to ask for his release, and Barry stopped his relief duties by the time the playoffs started because he needed to focus on Xfinity. Hocevar, while driving for the Truck Series for Nice Motorsports, took the opportunity to drive the 42 car at Legacy Motor Club, and he had some good races. I was very impressed. His first race at Darlington, finishing the top 20, he did a great job. No mistakes whatsoever. He could have had a possible top 10 at the Texas race in the fall, but got shuffled back late and got caught up in an incident, which I felt bad because he was on his way to a potential top 10. But this kid's got a lot of talent too, as long as he tones down the aggressive nature, because some people have called him out for it in the Truck Series the last couple of years. If he could tone that down, I think he'll be a really good driver in the Cup Series. Now, do I expect both of these drivers to make a playoff run this year? No, but I do expect improvement from this organization. And these two young guys, and Corey LaJoie, the veteran that he is, even though he is like in the younger category of 29, 30, 31 years old, I think this team will have some really fun moments this year. I'm looking forward to see what they could do. But a lot of shuffling with new drivers in new places, new faces in the Cup Series. It's just going to be a fun year to watch these drivers and see what they can do with these teams. Number 3, new looks on the Ford and the Toyota. That's right. This year we've got a brand new look for the Ford Mustang, which is called the Dark Mustang, and a new look in the Toyota Camry. Starting off with the Dark Mustang, they're calling it. I mean, look at that. Look at that. Does that not look like a badass race car right there? That thing looks amazing. I mean, it's a mean-looking race car. Of course, the defending champion will be part of that Ford camp because he drives those cars. It'll be interesting to see what those Dark Mustangs look on the racetrack this year. And of course, the Toyota body, and you notice they got a little bit flatter on the front of the nose, particularly to try to help them with some bump drafting at the super speedways, at Daytona, Talladega, and how we run Atlanta now. It could really help them. And I think people are interested to see how these two new looks to these manufacturers go for them this year, particularly at the start of the season, because normally when you start a new season with a brand new look to your car, like, the manufacturer changes the body a little bit, you may start out well or you may struggle a little bit, and it takes time for you to get used to it all. I mean, remember Chevrolet in 2018, they switched to the Camaro body, and they got off to a rough start in 2018 despite Austin Dillon winning the Daytona 500. Then later in the year, by the summer months, the Chevrolet started to become more competitive. Chase Elliott got his first career Cup win with the body at Watkins Glen, and then he won a few more races. And then they got better as the years progressed, with more drivers winning, like Kyle Larson, Alex Bowman, William Byron, and Kurt Busch when he went back to the Chevrolet camp. I mean, he won some races with him too. They improved dramatically, and I think that the Fords and the Toyotas, will they be in the same category as struggling early, but then, having a good rest of the season later on? That remains to be seen. A lot of people think that these manufacturer bodies are actually going to do better than the Chevy camp, but they're still stuck with the Camaro right now. I don't know what to expect. I mean, that's for them to determine on the racetrack when we get onto a race. Will we expect all the answers? Will we have all of our questions answered with these new bodies at the Clash this upcoming Sunday? I don't think so. That takes time because this is only a quarter mile of a track that we're running on. I think when we get to the bigger tracks like a Daytona, Atlanta, Phoenix, Vegas, all those types of tracks, we'll find out how good those Fords and Toyotas are with the new bodies. But I'm excited to see what they look like this year on the racetrack. Number 4, bounce back years for a couple of our stars. A couple of drivers had some rough seasons in 2023, and they're looking to bounce back this year. The top 2 that really we're going to talk about trying to bounce back this year are from the Hendrick camp, and that is Chase Elliott and Alex Bowman. Chase Elliott, of course, the sport's most popular driver, won the Cup Championship in 2020, had arguably the best year of anybody in 2022, even though he didn't win the championship. He won more races than anybody. Last year was a struggle for him because after race 2 of the season, as I mentioned early on, he broke his leg in a snowboarding accident and had to miss a few races. Then he came back, and, when he came back, he looked pretty good, starting to get back into a rhythm and flow of being out of the car for a couple of weeks. He was running competitive, and he was getting the points that he needed to try to get himself up to the top 16 if he pointed his way in. But that came to a halt at the Coke 600 when he got into an incident with Denny Hamlin. He got hit in the wall, and then he turned down into Hamlin, taking them both out, and Elliott got parked the following weekend at Gateway. Then he came back at Sonoma, and he was starting to gain back most of those points. It looked like he could point his way in, and then other drivers started winning and really hurt his chances. He didn't win a single race last season. He did get the 9 car in the owner's points thanks to him and the relief driving from Josh Berry in that one race with Corey LaJoie behind the wheel, but it wasn't the year that Elliott hoped for last year. This year, I think he bounces back big time. He will be back in championship contention. He will win races. He will make the playoffs, folks. Mark my words. Chase Elliott is not going to miss the playoffs back-to-back years. There's just no way. An offseason to recoup yourself. He got shoulder surgery in the offseason. He feels good. He's ready to go. He will have a new voice atop the spotter stand this year as Eddie DeHaan is going to Stewart-Haas Racing for Josh Berry. But Elliott has experience with his spotter. I think it's his cousin. So I think Elliott will be better this year, and he will be running for race wins like his teammates Kyle Larson and William Byron were a year ago. Same goes for his teammate Alex Bowman. He started out the season actually really well. And then, obviously, Hendrick Motorsports had those races with the penalties, with, and tampering with the car at Phoenix, the greenhouse thing at Richmond. That killed Bowman as far as points go. And then he, as I mentioned, he missed 3 races because he injured his vertebrae in a sprint car incident. He came back at the Coca-Cola 600, but he was not the same. You could tell, even behind the wheel of the car, the cars were not under him. He wasn't performing well. He struggled a lot of last year. Hopefully an off-season to recoup and reheal the body and reheal your back will help Alex Bowman this year. I mean, he's still a really good race car driver, folks. People think, oh, Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson, William Byron, they're all good. Alex Bowman's not that good. Yes, he is. He's good. He just needs to limit the mistakes. If he can do that, the 48 team, I think, can have a good season this year. If they can recreate the 2021 season that they had, Alex Bowman could be a threat this year. You never know. You never know. But I do believe both these 2 drivers will bounce back big time this year, and both of them will make the playoffs. So I expect a big bounce back for Chase Elliott and Alex Bowman. And number 5, Happy Harvick changes a chapter of his life from racing to a microphone. Last year was the final season of Kevin Harvick competing full-time in the NASCAR Cup Series, and now he has hung up the driver's suit and the helmet and has changed it for a microphone, a suit, and a tie. Kevin Harvick is joining Fox Sports this year to be our broadcasting analyst for the main Cup race this year alongside one of the best announcers that we've listened to in this era, and Mike Joy and Clint Boyer, who Kevin Harvick, he's pretty familiar with Clint Boyer, not just, personal level, but they've been teammates. This is the 3rd time they'll be teammates together. They were teammates when they were at Richard Childress Racing. They were teammates at Stuart Haas Racing. And now they're teammates in Fox Sports. But I'm so excited to see Kevin Harvick in a broadcast booth. When I listened to him in the Xfinity broadcast the last couple of years when they had some guest analysts from Cup join Xfinity telecast in 2015 when Fox came back and got the rights for those races, Kevin Harvick is really good at this. He knows what he's talking about. He's very knowledgeable about the sport. He's not afraid to speak his opinion like, his owner the last couple of years when he was behind the wheel at Stuart Haas Racing with Tony Stewart, when Stewart was in front of a camera and as a driver or at times as an owner, and the last couple of years he's been in a broadcast booth to call some of these races. Kevin Harvick is not afraid to speak his opinion, and he knows what he's talking about. He's run these cars, and he has a lot of knowledge of the sport, and he just loves the sport. And still see him part of the sport in a broadcast booth is going to be fun. I think we're going to have a fun year in Fox Sports. I mean, I think a lot of people are probably glad that the carousel of guest analysts with Mike Joy and Clint Boyer has stopped, and now we have a permanent addition in Kevin Harvick. I did enjoy the guest analysts, but I think having Kevin Harvick now as a full-time announcer is really going to help the sport this year. And I think his knowledge, Mike Joy's legendary calls and his longevity in the sport and the humor and the knowledge that Clint Boyer brings, I think that's going to be a great pairing between these three men. We're going to have a fun year the first part of the season on NASCAR and Fox with Kevin Harvick teaming up with Mike Joy and Clint Boyer. So, Kevin, I'm excited to hear you call races, and I can't wait to see what you bring to Fox when we start this weekend at the Clash. So those are my top storylines entering the season. I hope you all are very excited about the season. I also hope you really enjoy this logo that I have right here. It's really nice. Something that one of my family members created to try to put a little bit more spunk, a little more creativity into this show. And I hope the intro that you saw, you really liked that one. And I'm so excited to use that going forward. I'm just so excited for racing, folks. I just can't hold it back any longer. Racing is here. The Busch Light Clash starts this upcoming weekend at the LA Coliseum. We have the heat races on Saturday, then we have a last chance qualifier Sunday early on, and then we'll have the main event 8 p.m. Eastern only on Fox. So tune in, do not miss it, and then just a few weeks from this upcoming Sunday, the Daytona 500, the Great American Race. Folks, I'm so excited about this season. I hope you are ready to go racing as much as I am. I can't wait to get it started this weekend. So I hope you all get ready for this weekend and have your drinks and snacks ready because we're set to go for 2024 NASCAR racing. So subscribe, like. It's good to be back. It's great to be, recapping races again. I'm excited as much as you are. Let's have a great year, everybody. Let's go racing.